Welcome to a Starter and a Chaser podcast with your hosts, Joe Clarke and Jon Passow.
Did you know that, like the armadillo, pizza will fold itself over into the calzone position when threatened? Little known fact. Oh, hey, welcome to another episode of a Starter and a Chaser podcast. I am professional brewer Jon Passow.
I'm Whiskey Connoisseur Joe Clarke.
Joe, what do we have for review today?
A double whiskey. Woodinville straight bourbon whiskey. Woodinville straight bourbon whiskey. Pork barrel finished.
Pork barrel finished?
Pork barrel.
That's a squishy
so they get
barrel.
out the grill, they put the whiskey bottle on it, a little meat, and whiskey comes out.
So, port barrel finished bourbon whiskey. That sounds delicious. Tell us about Woodinville.
Woodinville, as in Woodinville, Washington.
Yeah.
The distillery was started in 2010 by two gentlemen by the names of Orland Sorensen and Brett Carlisle.
Well, you got through that pretty well.
Yeah, I did. So it is pot and column stills, barrel wood seasoned. Okay, so the barrel wood is seasoned outside before they make the barrels for 18 months. So they cut up the wood, season it outside for 18 months.
So they get the rain, the sun, the cold, the snow. They get all of that, and that mellows
animals.
A lot of the tannins.
We'll talk about the animals later.
Oh.
Anyways.
Armadillos? Anyways.
They are toasted barrels and at a number 4 char, and that is a alligator char. So it looks like actually when you take the tops of the barrels out, alligators jump out.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. Yeah, I don't think that's actually...
That's not how it goes, but that is actually...
But that's how we're going to say it.
That's how we're going to say it.
Yeah.
And all their grains are sourced locally. Jon, tell us about what's with the straight bourbon whiskey.
Well, now
here.
the straight bourbon whiskey there, actually both of these are 90 proof. They're both 5 years. They're rye, corn, and malted barley. But this one in particular, the straight bourbon whiskey, in 2020 won 2 highly prestigious awards. It won it won a double gold, and at the same competition won the best straight whiskey of the year 2020 at the San Francisco World Spirits Championship.
Wow.
Or competition.
That's impressive.
Really impressive.
Yeah,
now, Joe, tell us about the pork barrel. The pork
barrel finish with the meat. No, the pork barrel finish is 90 proof, also just like your straight bourbon whiskey here. It is actually aged 6 months in the ruby port barrels. Tasting room and a small... So the port barrel finished is 90 proof, just like your regular straight bourbon whiskey here, and it is aged for 6 months in the ruby port barrels. Now, what's interesting about this is kind of a rare one. It's only available at their tasting room in small distribution in Washington.
Wow, I'm glad we got it here
We're very
in Ohio
lucky and fortunate to have one of these.
Reviewing one of these.
Absolutely.
Well, we have them pre-poured in front of us like we always do. And Joe, tell us about the nose difference between both of these.
Okay, so we're going to open this up and I'll give you guys a little light. Nice, look at that. Nice color.
Yeah.
Nice and oily. Nice legs.
Caramely. And the color.
Wow. Very, I don't even want to use that word. Let's try some other words besides
smooth.
Extremely caramely. Kind of a bready note to it. Might be the toasted barrels.
Okay.
It is very barrel forward too. It is charred, smoky.
Those alligators are coming out to bite you.
Maybe a little molasses on there. Stone fruit forward. And then there is a banana note to it. It's like not banana chips, kind of like the mashed bananas. You know what I mean? Like mashed up bananas.
No.
Oh man, I'm having trouble with this one.
In what sense? Identifying or?
Identification.
Okay.
Yeah. Like a grapefruit. I'm getting out of this one. That's really interesting. Okay.
Banana and grapefruit. Okay.
Yeah.
So
very barrel forward, very charred, kind of a bready note to it, kind of like a baked bread to it. Caramel, vanilla, some of your usual notes. A little bit of the stone fruits going on there. A grapefruit note to it. Interesting.
Yeah.
Now let's go back to the port here.
Now this, I'm excited to see.
Now that
shows a lot of influence of the port barrel on that.
That's a thick one, dude.
That is
that's a nice red hue to that, bud.
That's almost ruby, like the ruby port that
This is a very mellow on the nose.
God, that
Picking up a lot of the wine note to it, the port.
Mm-hmm. That's really
very
good.
similar to this on some of the other notes, the caramel, a little bit of a bready note.
Mm-hmm.
The barrel is not coming through as much as the other one here. You don't get much of that char note to it and stuff. I wonder if it's the influence from having it in the port barrels. Maybe it kind of mellowed this out a little bit.
Yeah.
Very wine forward, really. It really is.
Some of that sweetness from the port might have like smothered those barrel notes.
It's very fruity, for sure. So a little bit, kind of a grapey note to it. Very floral, actually, this one. A little more earthy. Yeah, okay. Let's go with that.
Let's dive into the
Let's do it.
straight bourbon.
Cheers.
Cheers, indeed.
Alligator jar.
What are you tasting?
Caramel. Got that chewy, bready note. Well, there's some tannins going on there, man. A lot of barrel to that. I kind of want to take another sip on this, kind of acclimate my palate to it. It's an easy drinker.
Rye spice for me. First sip, right up front, rye, and then the caramel came in. Second sip, I got more of those brown sugary caramel, and then the spice starts to come in.
Oh, man.
Chewy barrel, a lot of tannins.
Brown sugar is very dominant on this one, John.
I agree.
The caramel and the vanilla, to me, are kind of in the background. The brown sugar and actually a maple syrup type note is coming through on this. It's really heavy.
It's
very
on
heavy.
the finish for me. I get the maple syrup.
It's almost like the candied maple. You know what I mean? Not like maple syrup in the syrup form, but they make the candy out of it.
I get the syrup.
Okay, all right.
For me, the maple candy is always just like dry and crumbly and powdery, whereas maple syrup is more smooth and viscous and deep flavors, and that's kind of what I get in this.
It's not super heavy on the mouthfeel, though. It's kind of medium bodied for me on the mouthfeel.
For me, up front, it's heavy, but then it drops down to medium.
Yeah, it dissipates. Not like a super long finish on this, but what it does very well. I love the sugary, mapley, the brown sugar, mapley note to it, but you get a lot of, the barrel builds, the more you take sips on this, the barrel's kind of hanging out in the background a lot for me. You get a lot of the charred, smoky notes to this one.
That vanilla is nice as it sits there, barrel.
Yeah.
But God, I love toasted barrels. That chewy barrel note.
Yeah,
God, I love it.
This is very bready in that I'm starting to pick that up. The first time we ever did a toasted barrel product, John was talking about it's like a bready note, and it really is on these. I've been focusing on that. Every toasted bourbon that I try, I'm like, oh, it's there. It's got that familiar note to it.
I get that as well, but and for me too, on top of that, that chewy, it's just like chewy.
This is very mouthwatering.
Absolutely.
So this is not a dry finish. It's like it's just there. You
Once
want to
you
keep
go
going
back. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So now that we're done with that one, let's pop on over to the port. But I'm going to take a quick sip of water.
Cheers.
L'chaim.
Let's see if we get the port.
Yeah, you get the port.
Like instantly.
I mean, it is extremely port forward.
You know what's funny about this one, John, is that not only did I get port forward, but I got a lot of rye spice on this one.
See, I'm getting a lot less. The rye spice for this is starting to slowly build for me, but that port just dominated the palate, and in the background, there's this little rye spice.
The port does this. It's like full force, and then it drops really fast mid-palate for me. It's right up front, and for me, mid-palate, it starts to drop off, and I'm kind of getting like this little bit of a hint of a sweet grape note. The brown sugars and the other flavors I was picking on the straight bourbon whiskey here is very muted.
Now, it's interesting you saying that, because I had the exact opposite. And my first sip, my second sip, I'm getting exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I think this is a neat example of where your palate has been kind of trained and how that can influence your tasting experience. We always say everybody's palate's different. Joe might not agree with me. I might not agree with Joe. And in this instance, I've spent years in the wine industry. I used to live in wine country. Joe has spent years in the whiskey side of things, drinking and consuming and analyzing. That's all he does. He doesn't do anything. It's just we're worried about him. But my first sip, I instantly gravitated and grabbed onto those port notes, whereas you being whiskey forward, you instantly gravitated to the whiskey notes, and then the port was second for you. So that's just, I really wanted to point that out because that's something that's really cool.
The port is there, but like I said, it kind of did this and then this mid palate, and it dances in the background on the finish for me. There is a weird note funk going on in the background on the finish for me.
Little
bit. It's got a weird funk.
And I don't know if that's the barrel or not, the port barrel. I get that, but
it's not bad. I'm trying to figure this out. I really am. I'm having trouble with it.
For me, I'm kind of like trying to figure that out as well, and I think it's the combination of the alligator char, that deep burnt char, combining with the vinous port. It's just like it's a weird combo.
You know what it almost tastes like is, I'm going to take another taste of this just to try to figure this out, see if I'm right here. Maybe that's the only way I can explain it. It's almost like a caramelized orange, if that would ever even be possible.
Caramelized orange.
Because it's got that kind of like citrus fruit bitterness mixed with a burnt caramel char. It's weird.
I do get
trying to figure this
some bitter orange peel.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't quite go as far as.
But every time I take a sip of this, the port is just like, whoa! And then,
so here's my thoughts on this one.
Okay.
Port, bit of caramel, port, molasses, port, chewy tannins, port. See a theme here? For me, the port just keeps popping up in between the whiskey flavors all the way long into the finish. I mean, if you enjoy port, this is going to be right in your wheelhouse. You're going to love the shit out of this. Excuse my French. Is shit French?
Yeah,
or is it Greek?
No,
Latin?
It might be Greek.
It might be Latin.
Might be Greek.
Okay. Anyways, and it is a very complex whiskey, but that port really dominates, which I like.
Okay, yeah, no, I do too. I think it's great. But on top of that port, when that port starts coming down for me, I get this real shock of rye about mid palate as the port dies down. It's very spicy. It keeps hanging around, like the back sides of my tongue, and it's definitely a rye spice for me.
Okay, so Woodinville in review, Joe. What are your thoughts?
In general, both whiskeys. Okay, let me differentiate these. That's going to be confusing people. This is fantastic.
The straight bourbon he's pointing out.
It is fantastic. I have had it before. I thought it was wonderful. I was hesitant to buy it the first time I saw it, and I was just like, I don't know. And I've had it so many times since then. It's beautiful. It's a well-crafted whiskey. I totally understand why it got a double gold. It's anybody that's never tried it, and people like see 90 proof and they kind of dismiss things at that because everybody's like barrel proof. This is super concentrated flavors at 90 proof.
Absolutely, which is surprising for 5 years in Washington, a cooler climate. Yeah.
How that got that dark, that concentrated, and that good. The port barrel finish, if you're not into the whole port finishing thing, you're not going to like this. You're not going to like it.
I actually agree with that.
I go back and forth on if I like it or not, honestly. I do like it in general.
This one or port barrel in general?
This one.
This one, okay.
Port whiskey, to me, it's a love-hate relationship. There's other brands out there that do it, and I don't like them. This is my favorite version of a port finish whiskey.
There you have it.
I personally would drink this over that all day.
You would personally drink the
regular offering of Woodinville.
Over the port barrel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
I like them both. I prefer that one.
You prefer that.
Yep.
Okay. And still, this is your best port that you've enjoyed, but it's still a love-hate
It's a struggle for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But you still can appreciate it.
I appreciate
that makes
it. Yeah,
sense.
sure.
That makes sense. So for me, the straight bourbon whiskey, I mean, for me, these taste like two different products.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean,
no doubt.
100%. They are, even though they're technically the same, it's just the barrel finishing, they are drastically different.
Oh, yeah.
The straight bourbon whiskey is fantastic. And like Joe was saying, the concentrated flavors that are coming out of this for a 5-year product in a cold climate, that's really awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that.
It's delicious.
Yeah, I'm a fan of that one. The port barrel, you know, I'm actually going to kind of go along with Joe on this one. I love it and I kind of hate it at the same time.
Yeah.
It's the port is so dominating, which in a way is its charm. It lets you know what it is.
Yeah.
But at the same sense, it kind of makes it a little hard to drink for me. It's more of a slow sipper. That being said, I found it a little bit more complimentary when I had a cigar paired with this. For our Instagram page, which you can find us at a Starter and a Chaser podcast on Instagram. By the way, hit subscribe when you're here on YouTube. It helps us out. This port with the cigar was a killer combination. But now that I'm having the port by itself, it's a little overwhelming. And that's why I say it's kind of a love or hate. I'm a little torn on this. I like it, but at the same time, it's a little dominating. So
yeah. It's something I almost have to sit with for a while and analyze. It's going back to the straight bourbon whiskey here. I just feel it's a better balanced drink. Honestly, for me, if I blind tasted them, I'm pretty sure I'm positive I would pick the straight bourbon whiskey just because it's just kind of a mood thing. I don't know. I've never tried it with a cigar, so I'm not a big cigar smoker, but that interests me. I'd like to try that. Yeah. Maybe that would change my mind and be like, this is amazing.
Yeah, I found the winning combo.
He's right.
Yeah.
The combination of certain things with certain whiskeys, with certain foods, certain cigar, you have a cigar with it, it does change things.
Yes,
So,
yes, absolutely.
all right, I can respect that.
Well, this was our review of Woodinville whiskey. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave us a comment below. Let us know what you think about it. And we will be back with another episode very soon. Now, pizzas. Every once in a while when I want a calzone, more like an armadillo, but armadillos are just big potato bugs.
Just kind of,
yeah, I sneak up on it after I cook it. If I want a calzone,